Welcome, lover. I'm the Naughty Scribe, author, businesswoman, and your host for the next hour. This live stream is dedicated to love, sex, acceptance, and understanding the lifestyle and ultimate sensuality. Trust me, lover, the knowledge I drop will be straight, no chaser. So sit back and prepare yourself. It's about to get naughty. Welcome, lovers. This is the Nyce and Naughtie hour, and once again, I am hopefully still the Naughty Scribe. Sorry, trying to get myself together tonight. Tonight's show is going to be about part 2, fairness in the age of Trump, where we talk about love, we talk about life, and we talk about finances. Yes, we talk about the dollar bill. Okay. Well, tonight's show is going to be dedicated to love, and more pertinently, the lack of love in the age of Trump. So with that, let's jump right into our what the fuck moment.
What the fuck?
Okay, lovers. So as you know, there has been a rise in hate groups and white nationalism, which is a polite way of saying Klansmen, neo-Nazis, and out-and-out bigots since the election of Barack Obama. It was one of the domains that so-called nationalists felt belonged to the white man only. With the election of our first African-American president, it dawned on a lot of white people who are of this ilk. I'm not talking about all my vanilla lovers, because you know I mean that literally. But it did dawn on a certain segment of our society, a very violent, dangerous, insidious, and vocal segment of our society, that if a black man can infiltrate the White House, then so could a Mexican, so could a woman, my goodness, so could an Asian, so could anyone other than a white man. And why would that be such an alarming situation for some? Because it would mean that other perspectives, other groups, other experiences would become literally part of the American fabric, because no one like the President of the United States can stamp an era, a time, and a situation. We will forever associate George W. Bush with 9/11. We will forever associate Ronald Reagan with Good Morning America. We will always associate Bill Clinton with one of the best economies and an unfortunate marital incident that he should have kept a little deeper undercover. We will always think of Barack Obama for giving us health care, and yes, for being the first African-American president. So sorry to the comb-over in chief, but the black man that was in office before you, he got 2 pages in the history book. But this is exactly what upsets the neo-Nazis, the white nationalists, because if you can show that other people of different backgrounds, different sexual orientations, different religious groups, if you can show that anyone other than someone with a quote-unquote Western European, I love how they say Western European and just say it instead of saying Anglo, but Western European pedigree, can come into that office, that sanctified office in the United States, become one of the most powerful people in the world, and do it with grace, dignity, and respect, it means that that's a lie, that only certain people in this country are good patriots, are good citizens, are good Americans, are good, period. It would mean that they're just as human as the rest of us, and everyone is capable of greatness and grace, as well as evil and insidiousness. This is the lie that Barack Obama started to expose, and this had to be squashed at all costs. With that said, the wink and nod, and I do mean wink, wink, nod, nod, to that segment of our society by this president, who, interestingly enough, in my research for tonight's show, they thought was a secret Jew. I kid you not. The same neo-Nazi, same white nationalists, same anti-Semitic groups who are supporting this man now with everything they've got just a few years ago thought he was a secret Jew and hated his guts. So we're going to talk about that and how they had their little turnaround, like a lot of people who crave power, who think that their time is coming. So with that, I want to jump right into our first segment video.
Steve King, deplorable, worried about other babies polluting the white culture. This is not the first time Steve King has done this. He's done this many, many times. Let's actually go to video 4 now, okay, and give you the history of Steve King.
He drove that culture in Ferguson, and it multiplied itself in Baltimore and then across the country.
You go in and you look at a litter of pups, and you watch them. You watch how they play. They run around a little bit. And what do you want? You want a good bird dog, and you want one that's going to be aggressive. Pick the one that's the friskiest, the one that's engaged the most, and not the one that's over there sleeping in the corner. You get the pick of the litter, and you got yourself a pretty good bird dog. Well, we got the pick of every donor civilization on the planet. We got the vigor from the planet to come to America.
I also say we need to do a few other things on top of that wall, and one of them be to put a little bit of wire on top here to provide a disincentive for people to climb over the top or put a ladder there. We could also electrify this wire with the kind of current that wouldn't kill somebody, but it would simply be a discouragement for them to be fooling around with it. We do that with livestock all the time.
Congressman William Lacey Clay of Missouri apparently concerned about, quote, racial profiling in Ferguson, Missouri.
Well, this idea of no racial profiling, I've seen the video. It looks to me like you don't need to bother with that particular factor because they're all appear to be of a single, of a single origin, I should say, continental origin. Might be the way to phrase that.
And some of them are valedictorians. Well, my answer to that is, and then, by the way, their parents brought them in. It wasn't their fault. It's true in some cases, but they aren't all valedictorians. They weren't all brought in by their parents. For everyone who's a valedictorian, there's another 100 out there that they weigh 130 pounds and they've got calves the size of cantaloupes because they're hauling 75 pounds of marijuana across the desert.
I can't deal with this guy.
Ku Klux King. So Steve King has been massively racist for a long time. There's no need to tiptoe around it anymore. Now with the latest comments about we can't restore our civilization with someone else's babies, it is absolutely crystal clear. The guy is 100% racist. You don't have to pull your punches on this one. It isn't racialist, it isn't stereotyping, it isn't discrimination. It's just plain old school racism. He thinks white people are superior. My evidence to the contrary is Steve King. Podcast the Young Turks anytime you want. tytnetwork.com/join.
I think it's weird.
So as you can see, lovers, this is the congressional representative of Iowa who has a long history of making racist, bigoted remarks. But here's the thing, and this is part of the reason we're having the show tonight. 10, 15 years ago, if someone were to have made even an off-color joke, they would have been ostracized, they would have been demonized, they would have been made the other, because this society is a melting pot. This society is about bringing together people of different origins, sexualities, races, ethnicities, religions. It's about bringing different people together for a common cause, which is the American, supposedly, the American way of life, which means if you work hard, you play by the rules, anybody, regardless of where you originated from, who you choose to believe in, who you choose to love, is capable of greatness and contributing to this country. That is supposed to be the American dream. That is what our diplomats sell to countries all over the world. They need to come back home and remind to sell it to a few people here. But as you can see, this is a representative who is not only known for his bigotry, who's not only out and about with his bigotry, but he has apologizers in the Congress. You have individuals who say, well, I know Peter and I know Steve King. He didn't, what he was really trying to say, no, don't translate for me and filter it to make yourself comfortable because you still support and hang with this ignorant motherfucker. Call him out. Because I promise you, if those of you think that I'm making a big deal out of this, remember this. Barack Obama, in his first term as president, was given hell by the white wing. Yes, I said it that way. The white wing, because of his association with who? Reverend Jeremiah Wright, who was, yes, a firebrand Christian, because they kept saying he was a Muslim until they wanted to throw Jeremiah Wright in his face, and suddenly he became temporarily Christian. But he was a firebrand Christian black pastor who said some shit that I personally don't agree with either. They wanted to lynch Barack Obama for just going to this man's church and not denouncing him. But the same people who were morally outraged about a black man not denouncing another black man for saying things that were racially insensitive seem to have no problem working with, supporting, and apologizing for an out-and-out bigot just because of craven politics. And when I say craven politics, I love the phrase that, yes, another white wing representative in the Congress coined, and it's putting your partisanship before your patriotism, which means you want power at all costs, and damn what it does to the country. And right now, sorry lovers, this most certainly applies to the current GOP. So with that, we're going to jump into our first break, and we're going to continue with this segment for a little while longer, okay? So we're going to see you back in one. Welcome back, lovers. This is the Nyce and Naughtie Hour, and yes, I am still your hostess, the Naughty Scribe. So we're going to finish up with our what the fuck moment with a quick rundown of a few things that just really are fucked up. Okay, as you saw, we started off the segment with a clip of the best lowest hits of Steve King, representative of Iowa. But if you think he's the only one who has this issue that gets winks and nods, and because he helps support a particular ideology, which is really what it is, that he gets a pass, think again, lovers. A reporter by the name of Kurt Eichenwald, who has been a consistent and well-validated critic of Donald Trump, was injured a few months ago by Twitter. Now, I know you're going to say, how the fuck does Twitter injure you? All you got to do is turn it off. Well, here's what happened. A gentleman, 29-year-old, in Maryland, in our area, he was arrested, is now facing federal charges because he sent to Mr. Eichenwald a tweet that had a GIF in it. For some of you who don't know what a GIF is, it's just a little clip, like a itty-bitty 2-second movie. But here's the problem. He sent Mr. Eichenwald a GIF or itty-bitty movie that had strobe lights in it. Why does that make a difference? Mr. Eichenwald is a known sufferer of seizures. And one of the trigger for seizures, anyone who's had a migraine knows what lights will do to you. But if you're prone to seizures, strobing lights, flashing lights can trigger a seizure at any moment. And it doesn't have to be bright studio lights. It can be something as simple as a movie that's flickering too many times in succession, which is a strobe. This has been well known. So there's no excuse to say, oh, he accidentally sent it. No, because the bastard When he sent the tweet with the implanted bomb to Mr. Eichenwald, his tweet was, "You deserve a seizure." So there is no, he didn't know he did it. He sent him a tweet, and I have it here. He sent him a tweet that says, and I will read it to you verbatim. It says, "Hate via tweet, suspect faces state and federal charges." Yes, the bastard is getting ready to get locked up, and I'll tell you why in a minute. "This unique case generated headlines worldwide, involves the allegation that John Rain Rivello sent a tweet embedded with an animated flashing strobe light image, a GIF, causing author and journalist Kurt Eichenwald to suffer a sudden epileptic seizure. Charging documents allege the suspect knew Eichenwald, who has been a frequent critic of Donald Trump, was epileptic and Jewish. Quote, "You deserve a seizure for your post," the suspect told Eichenwald in the flashing GIF. Talk about in this evidence in the tweet that he sent to this journalist. The 55-year-old journalist's wife found him on the floor of his home office, called medics, and responded to the sender. And check this out. Rivero, this asshole who sent the tweet, this was his handle on Twitter. I kid you not. Jew at Jew Goldstein. That was the handle he used, at Jew Goldstein. So at Jew Goldstein, a.k.a. white nationalist, racist motherfucker, John Rain Rivello. 55-year-old journalist's wife found him on the floor of his home office, called medics, and responded to the sender, Jew Goldstein. "This is his wife. You caused a seizure. I have your information and have called the police to report the assault." On Friday, the FBI arrested Rivera, who is 29, at his home in Salisbury, Maryland, meaning in our neighborhood. He was indicted early this week in the Northern District of Texas on a federal charge of cyberstalking with the intent to kill or cause bodily harm. This is why this case is so important, and I love it because it's going to back up some of you fucking trollers, okay? If you do something that causes injury or incites someone to cause injury and it's directly related to you, you don't get to hide behind an anonymous Twitter account anymore. Your ass is going to be charged. And in this case, because this motherfucker actually said in the tweet that he sent with the time bomb in it that he intended and hoped that he would actually have the incident, the seizure that ended him on the floor, that had him not able to speak for several weeks, that caused him severe injury. Since this was the hope for intent, it now became a federal charge. So now this bastard is looking at being somebody's prison bitch for this whole incident. But hey, I hear there are a lot of white nationalists in federal prison anyway, so he might feel at home. But this is, again, someone who, because of the comb-over in chief, decided that he would take matters into his own hands. It's not that the right to believe those basic core constitutional rights that we talked about last show, the right to freedom of property, the right to liberty, the right to pursuit of happiness. It's not that those apply to everybody. It just applies to people who apparently support Trump. The comb-over in chief, because, you know, I hate using his name. Okay. If that one weren't bad enough, we have, and I hate using his name too, we have Craig Cobb in North Dakota. Some of you already know who this is. Hey, Romeo. Hey, Wawa. You know, I got to shout out my lovers on Facebook. But Craig Cobb is a North Dakota infamous bigot and white nationalist and racist. I wish they just stopped saying white nationalists and just call them what they are, neo-Nazis, modern-day Klansmen. This is where this shit gets funny. This motherfucker bought a church, an abandoned church. And I'm going to be honest with you. Okay. This happens to be one of my favorite stories of tonight, of the what the fuck moment. Here's why. This racist motherfucker bought an abandoned church, bought it outright legally. He made it known in the press and to anyone who would listen to him that he was going to turn that church into a headquarter for white nationalist bigots. He was going to make it one of the first national headquarters. Okay. He tried this in a small town before, walking around with his rifle and all this other bullshit, and they charged his ass with terrorism and ran him out. So there are some decent white people, don't get me wrong, because I know y'all gonna think I'm hating on my vanilla lovers, and you know I mean vanilla lovers literally, because some of you have been that, okay? You know I don't hate like that. But here's the thing. This is what this motherfucker was doing, and the white people in North Dakota, in that small town, said, fuck no, fuck you, goodbye, and they kicked him out. He found another town to go to, bought the abandoned church. He had a legal right to buy it, said, I'm going to turn this into a white nationalist headquarters. So why is this my favorite show? He said that on day one. On day two, he came there, and it was burnt to the ground. I kid you not, lovers. Some bad person took it upon themselves, took the law into their own hands, and they burnt this man's church down to the ground. Now, you know that was wrong. Shame on you. I'm just saying. I don't recommend it. Hey, DJ. But I ain't all that mad at you either. I'm just keeping it real. I'm just keeping it real. So those are our three main ones, but these aren't people who are under a rock somewhere. These are people who are out and about, who are proud of their racism, are proud of their anti-Semitism, are proud of their homophobia and whatever else isn't vanilla, missionary, don't do nothing else, might have one or two kids and don't really enjoy having fucking for that. These are these motherfuckers. And they are here. They are a part of our society. We cannot ignore them because right now they are really going balls to the walls for the moment because they see in Donald Trump the man that they support as being one of them, as letting them know that he's one of them, and as someone who will enact laws and executive orders that will, quote unquote, put the white man back in charge of this country the way he should be. Meaning the way it was back in the 1800s where they ruled over women, they ruled over anybody who wasn't white, and they could do pretty much whatever the fuck they wanted to do because they were the superior being. Then a little thing like integration and freed slaves and women's rights came along and fucked it all up for them. So they want to go back to that. I have said it before, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for it because some of y'all have tweeted me saying it was a little harsh, so get ready to tweet me again. Apartheid in the United States is not going to fucking work. It just ain't going to happen. Just putting it out there, lovers. It just ain't going to happen. Some of the best technology, your cell phones, some of the software, some of the games you play, some of the, Uber were started and implemented by people that did not have an Anglo-Saxon pedigree. Just letting you know, okay? And I doubt some of you want to give up them Samsungs, want to stop playing Halo and some more shit. I'm just saying, okay? So we're going to put it out there because yes, I had a little rant, but you have to understand, I have permanent melanin. I have a permanent tan, so I might get caught up in some shit. So if a bitch disappears, y'all know what happened. Replay this show at my trial. Just saying. Okay. Another thing, and I talked to my engineer, Jacob, about it, but it really was a scary revelation for me. In researching for this show, because, you know, as a writer, one of the things I love to do, as geeky as it sounds, is to learn new things or to relearn things. Some things, though, once you learn them, you can't unlearn them. There is a group that I absolutely support, and I want to shout them out. They're the Southern Poverty Law Center. Some of you have heard this group before, the Southern Poverty Law Center, because this is the group that goes out, risks themselves and their money because they bring court cases too. These are lawyers and activists whose sole purpose is to combat hate and intolerance in every form they find it, and especially in this country. And one of the things that I love about them is they fucking call it out. They don't sugarcoat it. They don't make excuses for it. They don't apologize for it. They call it out. And one of the things, and I hope you do go to their website tonight or sometime this week, but on their site, and we're going to have their website up later in the show. They have a map with marks on it that shows you where the hate groups are and what hate groups there are. It's kind of like, as my engineer Jacob said, the sex offenders map, where you can literally go on the site, type in your zip code, because I did it one time and I was like, oh shit, and I didn't do it again, because it's too many fucking perverts, and not the kind I like, that live a little too close to a sister. That's all I'm saying. And a little too close to schools. But we've had that show. We might need to do it again. But there is an equivalent, and I guess it is an equivalent, to the sex offenders. You now have these bigoted knuckle draggers who are marked on the map. The scary thing is that you can actually put in your zip code or your city and state, and it will show you, pinpoint exactly where they are in your area. So, hey, you know, sisters in the D.C. area, the DMV, D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. We know there's certain areas of Virginia, yeah, I'm calling you out, and certain areas of Maryland, calling you out, that are kind of known that you might want to make sure you got your cop cam running. That's all I'm saying. Especially if a bitch want to get home safe and sound and in one piece. What shocked the shit out of me is, as dark chocolate and toffee as D.C. is, for there to be literally 21 established, well-funded, well-organized, long-term hate groups in the District of Columbia. I'm not going to mention their names because these motherfuckers will not be promoted on this bitch's show, but I will tell you, the breakdown is this. And yes, I'm calling them all out. So some of you may say, you didn't have to mention that one. Fuck you. If you hate group, I don't care who you hate, you deserve to be shouted out in the bad way. We have 6, and you motherfuckers need to be ashamed of yourself to even call yourselves African American. There are 6 black separatist organizations in D.C. There are 2 white nationalists, meaning Klansmen, neo-Nazis, groups in Washington, D.C. There are 3 general hate, which means they just fucking hate everybody, and they sell shit saying that they hate everybody. There are 3 of those groups established here in D.C. There are 3 anti-gay, lesbian, and transgendered groups established here in D.C. There are 4 anti-Muslim, big surprise there. Really, motherfuckers? 4 anti-Muslim groups? As if one ignorant motherfucker wasn't enough. You had to have 4 groups in D.C. In D.C., where we have probably as many mosques as we have churches. Really? Okay. And here's the one to just, I think Trump brought them with him. There are 3 established anti-immigrant organizations here in D.C. I'm not talking about some ignorant motherfucker in his basement whacking off, singing Hi Hitler and some bullshit like that. I'm talking about motherfuckers with office space, and you know how expensive that is in D.C. Office space, congressional backers, corporate backers, established connections, law enforcement, legal assistance to help them when they get sued, established hate groups. There are 21 alone in the District of Columbia. So if you want to do yourself a favor and you want to know how hateful your area might be, don't say, oh, we're not bigots over here, or we would never do any bullshit like that. Go to the Southern Poverty Law Center's website. Click on the map, because the map has a whole tab by itself under Hate Watch. Click on the map. Not only will you see in general in the United States where they're concentrated at, but you'll be shocked to see what's in your town. Yes, boo-boo, your town, your city, your neighborhood. People that you smile and joke with, you have no idea how hateful some of these motherfuckers can be. And because of the comb-over-in-chief, they now feel more emboldened and brazen, because they do feel, and unfortunately, whether he meant to or not, I think he did, encourage them to believe this. So with that, we're going to take one more break, and we'll be back in 1. lovers. This is the Nyce and Naughtie Hour, and I'm your hostess, the Naughty Scribe. Oh shit, I got it right tonight. Hey! And tonight is part 2 of our series, Fairness in the Age of Trump, Life, Love, and Finance. Last week, we concentrated on life and Supreme Court nominee and how it damn sure affects our everyday life. Tonight's show is going to be centered on love, or more accurately, the lack of it in the era of Trump. Now, we're going to jump into our Getting It In segment. Can I get that? Okay, so getting it in tonight, we're going to talk about getting in knowledge, because one thing we cannot afford to do, not especially with this administration, is to be willfully ignorant. Not saying everybody's got to be a firebrand and go out there and demonstrate. There's other ways to show, to protest. There's other ways that are more comfortable for some than others. I'm a big mouth. I don't have a problem being out on the line. Not everybody is that bold or brazen, but there are things that you can do to help protect yourselves and other citizens from the kind of hatred that is being emboldened by the President of the United States. And if you don't think that made me want to throw up in my mouth saying that, trust me, it did. But I got to get through the rest of this, so we're going to work with it. Let's start off with what a white nationalist is. By definition, a white nationalist is a term for a form of white supremacy or separatism. Its supporters defend country by white racial identity. They promote the interests of whites exclusively and denigrate others. So how is that different than your average bigot or Klansman? Well, here's the minor difference. Nationalists don't want to just be superior to everyone else. They want to be separate from everyone else. They believe that it is, sorry, let me get rid of this because it's distracting me. They believe that there should be a segment, if they can't get the whole country, they want a segment of this country to be whites only. And that's no bullshit. Now, if you think that this doesn't have anything to do with you as an individual, remember this. Steve Bannon is chief counsel and advisor to the President of the United States. This is the same gentleman who ran a website called Breitbart. Breitbart was a known forum for white nationalists. It still runs bigoted headlines now. And in addition to that, if anyone opposes Trump or does anything that might get this bigot out of office, they go gun-ho to put out fake news, not real researched or evidentiary stories. They go out of their way to put out the most salacious and the most derogatory headlines and information about any opponent. So think of Breitbart as a propaganda tool of the White House, because that's what it's become, along with Fox News. So yes, Roger Ailes, well, no, that sexual abuser is no longer there. So I guess as Rupert Murdoch is going to sue me for that one. But hey, there's evidence to back that shit up. But the bottom line is that it's not just the commover-in-chief whose beliefs or disbeliefs you have to worry about, or misconceptions you have to worry about. It's also the people who support him, because the more they believe he's one of them, the more they're willing to do and risk to keep him where he is, because they honestly believe that this man will bring about the next white Reich. You have to be aware of this. Now, let me say this again for clarification. Not everybody white is a bigot. Not everybody white is a white nationalist. Not everybody white is a neo-Nazi. But I have yet to meet a black neo-Nazi. I have yet to also meet a white Black Panther. Okay, so let's call it what it is. You have hate groups of all flavors and all denominations. But tonight, we're going to talk about the one that can actually do some shit. Because let's be honest, some of these fringe groups, they don't have the political backing that a president of the United States does, who also has his finger on a nuclear bomb, and he's also, remember lovers, the head of our military. This is a motherfucker who can declare national, what does it call it? Call out the National Guard. He can put us under restriction. He can use the military, though it's not supposed to be done under certain circumstances. He can pull the military out on our own citizens. This bastard even lied about wanting to have tanks and missile launchers parading down Pennsylvania Avenue on his inauguration, and that shit came out last night. So in addition to being the comb-over in chief, he's a liar in chief. But you have to be aware of this. And why is this important for you to know and really act on? We talked about Kurt Eichenwald, and we talked about what was done to him for having the audacity to be a journalist who told the truth and backed it up about the comb-over in chief. What I did not get a chance to read to you, and I'm going to read them to you now, as disgusting as they may be, are the supporters of the offender, Mr. Ravello. This is what they said about him being charged. Now remember, in the tweet that he sent to this man that he wanted to cause a seizure, said, "You deserve a seizure. Here you go." He actually put that shit in there. So there's no confusion that he meant to do this man harm. Understand that when you listen to what some of his supporters wrote, and here's the scary part, knowing what just happened to Mr. Kurt Eichenwald, knowing the medical damage that this tweet did to this man, these supporters of Mr. Ravello retweeted that same bullshit back to Mr. Eichenwald, along with their own little tidbits, such as one person named Becky Barnes set up a fundraising site describing Ravello as a friend and a former Marine who suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. Yeah, honey, let me explain something to you. You can try that bullshit and think you're going to plant the seeds of him getting off on an insanity plea. Ain't going to happen. It was deliberate. He meant for it to be deliberate. He put it out there to be deliberate. He made it clear it was deliberate, and what he was hoping to do was to cause physical harm to another person. What he didn't realize is that his ass could get caught. That was the mental breakdown, his brain functioning. Another supporter of, again, Mr. Ravello, wrote, "Yep, this disgusting Jew is trying to ruin a man's life for sending him a Twitter gift. How is this even an offense? My anti-Semitism got 10 feet higher." Now, let's work with this one, lovers. Your anti-Semitism got 10 feet higher, which means you were already a bigot. And you are now advertising the fact that you are a bigger bigot. I find it interesting that you said 10 feet, because that's probably how many inches you're lacking. Just saying. Another one said, Jew Goldstein, remember that was the handle of Mr. Ravello. Jew Goldstein is innocent, did nothing wrong. POTUS must not allow anti-Semite, remember the Jewish man, anti-Semite Kurt Eichenwald to get away with this. Again, these are out-and-out bigots asking for the President of the United States, you know, the man who's supposed to protect and serve all of us. They're saying that he should personally come out and support and defend a 29-year-old man who purposely did harm to someone else via Twitter for no other reason that he didn't like what he was reporting about the president. Now, one of the rights we have in the Constitution is called a free press. We do not have, like they have in Russia and other countries like Korea, a government-run press where the only news that goes out is what they approve of, and you only slam the people that are speaking truth about that government. It's called the Fourth Estate for a reason. It's supposed to speak power to truth. Now, are some journalists slanted one way and some slanted another way? Yes. But if the basic premise is the truth, their spin on it is up to us as individuals to get through the shit, to understand these are the facts. I don't agree with the way you're looking at it. I don't agree with you the way you're looking at it. But if everybody agrees that 1 + 1 is 2, not 11, that's the starting point that we all work from. You can't have, as another comb over counselor of said alternate facts. Alternate facts is just a nice legalized way of saying lying through your teeth. Okay? So these are the supporters. These are people who purport to be Christian, purport to be patriots, purport to be decent people who just want people to die who don't believe the way they do and who don't support the people they support. Welcome to the United States of America under the comb-over chief. Just saying. Okay. So now that we understand that, let's understand how the white nationalists or the white supremacists went from thinking the comb-over in chief was a secret Jew to being their best friend. First of all, it has been a steady and consistent push of anti-immigration platform. And most of the white national and the Southern Poverty Law Center, I can't shout them out enough, have a great article on the evolution of white nationalist affinity for Donald comb-over in chief. He started spouting one of their major beliefs, that basically immigrants are coming into this country and taking jobs away from honest, hardworking white men. I have yet to see a line outside of a farm in California for people to pick strawberries and blueberries and grapefruits and orange and all kinds of shit in 1,000-degree weather in the sun for little to no pay, just so we can have cheap produce on our tables. Okay? I've yet to see a whole line of white men being denied those jobs. What I have seen are immigrants who come in with nothing else with no other job opportunities awaiting them except hard labor. So they take those jobs because they want to put food on the table for their families. Big shocker there. You got decent family men and women coming across the border to take care of their families. Wonder what you would do if you were under the same situation. The wink-wink communication, and we talked about that. Wink-wink is another way of saying code. So when he talks about, Chicago, where all these people are being shot, and you can't go down the street and get a jug of milk for your baby without being shot. That's code for saying niggas shooting each other, animals who don't deserve human basic rights or consideration. You need to be afraid of them, and I'm going to put them in check for you. Because you notice he never seems to talk about all the black people who are doing well in the United States, who are productive citizens. I'm sorry, Trump supporters, because I know y'all going to tweet me again. But here's the issue. Not everybody black is a thug. Not everybody black plays basketball, even though we did bring some flair to the game. Not everybody black is a rapper. And hands to God, not everybody black got rhythm. I'm just saying. Okay? So let's try to get over some of that bullshit. Okay? But yes, he talks in code. And as you saw by our clip earlier in the segment, he's not the only one that speaks in those code words. But here's the thing. If I can decipher your code, it can't be much of a code, but it gives plausible deniability. It allows him to support bigots without out and out saying, I support bigots, because he can always say, well, that's not what I meant. Fuck yes, what you meant, but we can't get into the brain because there is none. He and his advisors retweeted bigoted tweets from a well-known bigoted person whose feed is out there. A lot of white nationalists follow him, and they retweet it, and they think it's funny to retweet it to people of color. For instance, one of the things that the comb-over-in-chief tweeted during the campaign was this graphic showing how violent African Americans are and how many crimes African Americans commit. The funny thing was the Justice Department put out their report, and it seemed like white people were committing about 5% more crimes than we were. Go figure. And some of the same damn crimes. So I guess poverty strikes all races. Then there was a moment on CNN, which we got to play it now, that just really gave all the white nationalists a boner. Can we get that clip?
Ask you about the Anti-Defamation League, which this week called on you to publicly condemn unequivocally the racism of former KKK Grand Wizard David Duke, who recently said that voting against you at this point would be treason to your heritage, will you unequivocally condemn David Duke and say that you don't want his vote or that of other white supremacists in this election?
Well, just so you understand, I don't know anything about David Duke, okay? I don't know anything about what you're even talking about with white supremacy or white supremacists. So I don't know. I mean, I don't know, did he endorse me or what's going on? Because, you know, I know nothing about David Duke. I know nothing about white supremacists. And so you're asking me a question that I'm supposed to be talking about people that I know nothing about.
But I guess the question from the Anti-Defamation League is, even if you don't know about their endorsement, there are these groups and individuals endorsing you. Would you just say unequivocally you condemn them and you don't want their support?
Well, I have to look at the group. I mean, I don't know what group you're talking about. You wouldn't want me to condemn a group that I know nothing about. I'd have to look. If you would send me a list of the groups, I will do research on them, and certainly I would disavow if I thought there was something wrong. But you may have groups in there that are totally fine, and it would be very unfair. So give me a list of the groups, and I'll let you know.
Okay. I mean, I'm just talking about David Duke and the Ku Klux Klan here, but...
I don't know. Honestly, I don't know David Duke. I don't believe I've ever met him. I'm pretty sure I didn't meet him, and I just don't know anything about him.
All right. In terms of a...
You know, lovers, whenever I look at that clip, it's hard for me to watch it all the way through without just shaking my head in disbelief. This 72-year-old adulterous, insecure, immature fuck who conned his way into the White House had the audacity to say he didn't know who David Duke was, even though David Duke had been in the news supporting his candidacy, saying over and over again that it was one of them that was finally going to make this country right. That David Duke has been a favorite of his chief advisor, Mr. Bannon, and that he didn't know the organizations. Yes, lover, a 72-year-old man didn't know, had never heard of a group called the Ku Klux Klan. But he's faithfully going to execute his oath of office. Right. I cannot believe sometimes the desperation of people to separate themselves from the truth in order to hold on to a belief. I had this conversation with a coworker, and he brought up an absolutely great point. So, Malcolm, I'm shouting you out. It's like someone who doesn't want to believe they have terminal cancer. And because they don't want to believe they have terminal cancer, they hang on to the most flimsiest of charlatans. They will hold on to a snake oil salesman who tells you, hey, if you eat my brand of grapefruit juice and pulp, if you drink it, consume it twice a day, every day for the next 5 months, it will cure your cancer. And because this person does not want to believe that they have cancer, that it is terminal cancer, they don't use the time that they have wisely. They hang on to that pipe dream, and they do everything they can to deny it. If this treatment didn't work, we'll try this one. If this pill didn't work, we'll try another one. Because they absolutely refuse to believe that they have cancer until just before they die of cancer. Then they're laying there screaming and crying, why, Lord, why me? How could this happen? I didn't have enough time to do this and that for my family. No, it's not that you didn't have time. It's because you chose an alternate reality. And because you could not be shaken from that, because you were desperate to hold on to it, even when the facts were staring you in the face, you now want to blame everybody else, a la the comb-over-in-chief, for everything that's going wrong in your life and for the predicament you find yourself in. Now, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, if somebody told me there was a chocolate-coated pill that would help me drop 30 pounds overnight, I might consider it. If they had some studies to back it up, I might consider it even more. A bitch might even try at least one pill. But if I didn't lose even 2 pounds, done deal, it's over with. I understand, I'm fluffy. I'm just going to have to keep owning it and working it. Trust me, I do. But the point is, you have to wake up. You have to face reality. The comb-over-in-chief current disapproval or approval, however you want to look at it, his approval rating is at 37. 37. I'm sorry, 36. It just recently dropped to 36. Here's what's so funny about that. He keeps comparing himself to Obama. Barack Obama never got below 38, and that was during two of the worst months in each perspective, because he hit 39 in one, hit 38 in the other. This motherfucker is now up to 60% approval rate. Come over in chief, 36. And this is among Republicans. This is not counting those of us who didn't like his ass to begin with and saw what was coming. This is people who voted for him are now having second thoughts. I think that healthcare issue kind of scared a few people. So understand that this man is willing to do and say whatever it takes to make himself look like the bullshit that he told everybody he was and that bought into it. And he's got a lot of dangerous, well-connected people who are supporting him in that effort. Now, before we wrap up the show, I want to again shout out the Southern Poverty Law Center, and I want to bring up our flag on the play so we can run through these points real quick. Okay, well, that's what happens when you have live streaming. Shit happens. Okay, let's bring up segment pick A, 3A, and we're going to run through all of them, so keep them up. It's a guide that I recommend everybody download. It's a free PDF. It's called 10 Ways to Fight Hate, a Community Response Guide. So if you feel like you're in a situation where you are being involved or you are being affected by hateful elements in your community, there are some things you can do. You don't have to just take it. The first thing is to act. Do something. In the face of hatred, apathy will be interpreted as acceptance. Basically, if you don't say anything, even if you don't agree with it, if you don't say anything about it, if you don't do anything about it, if you don't make your disapproval of it known, it's going to be looked at as acceptance. Number 2, unite. Call a friend or a coworker. Organize allies from church, schools, clubs, or other civic groups. Basically, hateful people pick on those they think are weak. And no one's weaker than someone who stands alone. We were having a joke in my office. Well, not a joke, but we were having a conversation, but we did laugh through it because we know somebody that put the lie to it. But a lot of gays who get beat up are never beat up one-on-one. They're beaten up 5 deep to 1 because cowards cannot face them one-on-one. Why? Because just because someone might want to suck a dick doesn't mean they don't have a dick. And they will whoop your motherfucking ass. And how do you go back to your boys and say a queen put their foot in your ass, okay? But this is the point. A lot of hateful people get together because they feel more bolder with other people. We have to do the same thing. We have to band together and oppose them. So for my protesters out there who've been making it known, I love you. The third one, support the victims. Don't blame the victims, support them. Not everyone who says that they have been targeted by bigots, neo-Nazis, or racists are playing the race card. They're telling you what's going on. Again, please visit the Southern Poverty Law Center website. Check out the map, and you will be amazed at the concentration of hate in your local areas. The next one, do your homework. It means things like this. Find out what reputable watchdog groups are out there, again, like the Southern Poverty Law Center. Get acquainted with their website, and you don't have to be religious about reading it, but check it up every now and then. Hit it up maybe once a week to see what's going on. You might be surprised at some of the alarming activity that's happening right in your neighborhoods. Create an alternative. It means that if someone has a hateful rally going on, don't go to their rally, and especially don't go to their rally to shout them down, because all you're doing is making them feel justified, because if you didn't have a hater, you couldn't be doing something right in their eyes. What you do is you put on an alternate or a anti hate rally. If there's a rally going on about racism, have one about unity. If there's something going on about anti-gay, lesbian, and transgendered, have one about unity in the rainbow and all of us being loving creatures deserving of God's grace. Okay? Speak up. The next one. You know I will, so speak up. If someone says or wants to involve you in something that is hateful, organized and hateful, and you disagree with it, speak up and say, fuck no, I'm not going to be a part of it. And let people know, let the news media know, let your organization, let your community know that this shit is going down in your area. Don't let them think that they can just sneak in and take over, which is what they want to do. Next one, lobby your leaders. Let your congressmen, let your mayors, let your police chief, let your elected officials know that you're not comfortable with this shit that's going on in your community and call it out. Look long range. Basically promote tolerance, address biases and other hate crimes that have occurred in your area. Don't remain silent when you know some bullshit has gone down that is wrong. Okay? Teach tolerance. Okay? To me, that's a big one as a parent. Children are not born hateful. They just aren't. They're born loving and they're born curious about the world. They are taught hate. They are taught fear. They are taught intolerance. If we stop doing that bullshit, and I mean pink, black, purple, and whatever, if we stop teaching our children that someone different from them is a danger, then maybe some of this shit will stop. And last but not least, and this is one that I take to heart myself, dig deeper, which basically means reflect inwardly. Are you displaying your own intolerances, your own bigotries, your own discomforts? Sometimes your own fear is because you haven't expanded your horizons of people you know, of people you hang with, of cultures to get to know. Okay? So again, if you have a suspicion or a discomfort with people who are Islamic, get to know some people who are Islamic. Get to know what the Quran says. Get to know what the Torah says if you have issues with Jewish people. Get to know what the Bible says if you have issues with evangelists and some Christians that ain't doing what they're supposed to do. Understand what their religious beliefs are, and then look not for the people who are bastardizing it, because you can find it in any religion. Look to the people who are doing their best to walk in that life and uphold the high principles of faith, okay? So with that, lovers, we ran a little bit long, but this was an important show to do. And yes, I got in all the points that I wanted to get in tonight. So we can actually do the third and final part next week. And that's talking about the money, 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 okay? So with that, lovers, I thank you again for supporting the Nyce and Naughtie Hour and the Naughty Scribe. Remember, life's nicer when it's naughty. Good night.